This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
Settle in there, O. Settle in.
All right, there we go.
There you go.
How you doing, Ira? You doing
I'm
all right?
Good. And it's interesting, especially if people are catching this on the podcast. I thought a point you made before we went to the break and came back about the distance between the Bills and the Dolphins when it comes to contention. I think it's a really important point when we talk about the Miami Heat here on our Acura Pembroke Pines report for this reason. There is not that kind of distance between the Heat and any team in the Eastern Conference. And I'd even argue between any team in the NBA. Yes, the Celtics defeated the Heat last year. They went to the NBA Finals. Milwaukee, they still have Giannis, Drew Holiday, Middleton. They're a very good team. The Warriors, obviously, they're back with Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and Steph Curry. But I don't think there's that precipitous drop that it would not shock anyone when the Miami Heat played the Celtics, the Bucks, the Sixers, the Nets. I don't know who else you want to throw in there, the Warriors, that at home
Atlanta.
they wouldn't be favored.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Matter of fact, you tell me this, because you're a big gambler, and I know there's 2 liens on your house already, but the Dolphins, when they host the Bills, I assume the Bills would be favored?
Of course.
Okay,
Yeah,
so my point being, I think when the Heat host anyone this season, the Heat will be favored, simply because they're that close. So I think in this summer of, oh my God, the sky is falling, the Celtics got Malcolm Brogdon, the Sixers wound up getting PJ Tucker and Montrezl Harrell, the Nets wound up keeping Durant and Irving. I think this is a really good time as we get 2 weeks, within 2 weeks of the start of camp, to exhale a little. And your point you made before our break, before we came on for our Acura Pembroke Pines report, was a cogent one. The Dolphins have a long road to go to get to the utter elite level.
Oh, yeah.
The Heat are right there. And you know what? A lot of times, if you're watching on YouTube, my hands are on the same plane. The Heat are just there. So this whole summer of consternation, we all love change. We all love something different. I've listened to the Big O Show for years, and they all wanted someone besides Tua. And they all wanted the backup quarterback. And they all wanted that kind of change. Well, you got your coaching change. That's your big move. That's the big attitude change. The Heat didn't need a big move. They didn't need an attitude change. Yeah, I would have loved to have kept their starting power forward also. But I really wonder, because we can't do age discrimination in real life, how many people out there, and I remember you talked about this, were willing to give 3 fully guaranteed years and $32 million to a 37, 38-year-old power forward. So I think the consternation over the Heat, at least for the moment, is somewhat misplaced.
Well, no, it's see, the difference is where it's not a fair comparison with the Dolphins and the Heat. The Heat have already put they've put their fan base in a different level of expectations and a different level of demand. The Dolphin fan can't demand a deep playoff run and a title contention because that's not reality. Reality is first get a winning season, get into the playoffs on a consistent basis, and then build on that. Prove that you can do that. The Heat's been doing that for 20 plus years. They've been going to the playoffs. So playoffs for them is we're in the Shula mode. That's where we're at. We got to a point, because obviously you and I are old enough, where, Shula's only winning 10 games?
Yeah.
Oh, that's not enough. He makes the playoffs? No, that's not enough. And unfortunately, that's the Miami Heat nowadays. It all comes full circle. One day they'll wear the double belt again, Ira. They will. The double belt will come back again in fashion. And the spoiled fan is always back in fashion. And that's what the Heat is. The Heat fan right now is the Dolphin fan in the 80s. They were so used to watching all the success from the 70s into the 80s that there was another level of expectation, and not just winning or not just making the playoffs. That's not enough. What are you doing to try to win a title? And that's where the Heat fan is. The Heat fan is, they have they're in Park Avenue and Boardwalk, whereas the Dolphins are still in Virginia and I don't know those other
Baltic and Mediterranean over there on that side, not on Park Place. Yes.
It's not in the Baltics. Okay, come on. I'm going over to Virginia and,
All right, so
come
you're
on.
you're in the green. You're in the greens already. I was in the
Yeah,
light blues.
purple, green. Yeah. We're not in Park Avenue and Boardwalk yet, but come on, man.
Or if we had the Hialeah version, we're not at Hialeah Park. We're not at Hialeah Park yet. We're still getting there. I understand that. So we're closer to Palmetto General. So I can
It's just
understand that
different. The
also.
Heat fan
You
is
know what?
different, man.
It's like the Tony Sperano years. Unless I'm wrong, he won like 10, 11. Like he had good seasons.
111 season, 111.
Right.
Yeah.
They had seasons and it still wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
So, I mean, my real question is this.
That's Kevin Lockery making the playoffs. It's
Yay. It's a different era. So I can understand the Heat expectations. I would put it this way. Every power rating we've seen to this point has the Heat at least in the top 8, and that's their basement. That's the basement. There've been plenty that have had them 4, 5, 6, somewhere in there. I think the Dolphins are sort of stuck in the middle right about now, which is different. Maybe they're not 15, maybe they're 13, depending what you think of the roster. So I just think this whole sort of Heat summer of consternation, I love something new as much as the next guy, but I think you also have to have perspective. And also, Big O, one thing that changed when you were doing your shows back on the top of the radio dial in the 1000s on the AM back in the years, these are salary cap leagues now. They're luxury tax leagues in the NBA. It's just different. It's no longer what it used to be. Just get everyone. You can't be the Yankees or the Dodgers in the NBA or the NFL. That's the difference. If people are calling you in or going to your YouTube chat board and saying the Dolphins should have done this, this, and this, you have to tell them, no, you only have X amount of dollars to go around.
Right.
I'm the same way. I talk about luxury tax. I talk about hard cap. I talk about salary cap. That's the difference here also. There's no quick makeover in a salary cap world. Baseball, it's in its own. I know they have profit sharing to a degree, but you still can spend as much as you want. We don't have that in the other sports. You have to build it, and you have to build it right.
Well, Ira, when I was a beat guy and going to all these games with you and covering the teams, I covered a guy that is going into the Hall of Fame tomorrow. In fact, right? It is tomorrow, right?
It is
No,
Saturday, Springfield,
Saturday.
Massachusetts. Correct.
Yeah, Saturday. So I was wondering if it was Sunday, but it's Saturday, and so I'm glad it's actually Saturday too instead of football Sunday. But anyway, so Hardaway's getting in, and listen, I don't think any of us are going to ever argue the player, and I know that unfortunately the person made a terrible mistake, and I'm glad that he was able to atone from that.
Yes.
So he could be able to enjoy a well-deserved moment because I think of Marino, and if you don't have that title, well, man, if you were great enough to be one of these guys, I hope you're able to at least enjoy this moment personally, that hey, you couldn't enjoy the ultimate team goal, but it wasn't because individually you didn't bring enough to become a champion in that team goal. And that's the way I look at Hardaway. That's the way I look at Marino. Players that gave their all, played their asses off, and they're not the reason why their team didn't win a title.
There's two great titles you can have. One, obviously, is being a champion, but also someone who's pushed forward a resurrection, who's lifted a team from the dead, who's made a team relevant, as Dan Marino did with the Dolphins again when they got going again, when they found him, as Hardaway and Mourning did with the Heat. Look, I'm going to ask you a question, Big O, okay? Which is harder, to come in to a team like Alonzo Mourning and Tim Hardaway did that only made the playoffs twice in their first 7 years, or to be Ray Allen and just jump on a championship team? To be Mike Miller, no offense, and jump on a championship team. Mike Miller's a champion. Ray Allen's a champion, had one in Boston also. But it's a lot different to just join a championship team. So yes, you can call guys champion. We see it in every sport. They jump to the next big thing and make sure they're winners. But to lead a resurrection, to bring a team from the dead, and you remember what it was like, no offense to Kevin Lockery or Alvin Gentry and Dave Wall and the Heat's previous management, but this was a go-nowhere team in a go-nowhere arena, in a go-nowhere salary budget, that just with Louis Chaffel and Billy Cunningham, God bless them for getting it started. To lead a resurrection, in my view, in sports is far more difficult. To be that linchpin guy on a team, You might even say, hey, you didn't go out as a champion, Jonathan Huberdeau, but you were here when the Panthers became relevant again. You lifted this team to mean something. That means something. That's significant. We still have to wait for the guy on Inter Miami to say, hey, because we have this guy, we thought it was Higuain, it's not. Because we have this guy, we're relevant now. That's where Tim Hardaway should be remembered. Golden State was not much of a team before he got there. All of a sudden, Mitch Richmond and Chris Mullin already were there, and then Run TMC started. And you were like, holy crap, I got to watch this team. They are fun. The Heat where no one was watching the Heat. No offense to Glenn Rice and Steve Smith and Ronnie Cycli. And then all of a sudden, the craziness of Pat Riley coming from New York, Alonzo Mourning's grit, and Tim Hardaway is such a son of a bitch bulldog that even when I talked to him about Kyle Lowry's conditioning or whatever, his part was this. You can be 6 feet, but if you're 6 feet with an attitude, and if you're 6 foot with a resolve, you can still thrive in the sport. Yesterday, like Tim Hardaway did, today, hopefully, like Kyle Lowry will again after his Raptors championship. Yeah, Tim Hardaway deserves to be there because resolve and resurrection have to mean something.
And I got to tell you something, and I know this is going to sound, in a way, maybe insensitive to the community that he insulted, but I don't mean it that way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really think he was as hateful as it sounded when he did that comment. I just think we were in an era still back then. There's too much goddamn machismo, and it's almost like you're not man enough if you're friends with somebody that's gay or something. And it to me was, I think there was a lot of that behind those comments of his. And it was just one of those things that, the testosterone and all that other stuff that, it's kind of, they think they're above that kind of stuff. And, oh no, don't associate me with those kind of people and that kind of stuff. Because I hung out with Hardaway several times at a cigar bar. We used to meet each other a lot at. Not we would go meet each other. We would meet there because he was always going there and I would go there. And I hung out with him for several nights smoking cigars and talking. And I just don't see him being that kind of a hateful person. I just think it was one of those things where it's I don't know, like a stigma that was around. I think it's a lot less now. I'm sure it still exists in some areas, but I think most of us have matured in society to be a little bit more accepting of others and whatever you are, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter. And so I'm glad that he was able to kind of atone on all of that and reach out to the LBGT community and also make amends of that. But I just think that he really, when he said that stuff, I don't think he really meant it all. I think it was just one of those general things that comes with a certain group of guys that they feel almost I don't know what it is, uncomfortable around, someone that is gay or something like that.
I'm going to give you one more thing, Big O.
I think it was just one of those things where being around Timmy, he just doesn't seem like that.
No, I think it was more cultural and religious.
Yeah.
He said this in
Yeah,
the church that he was raised.
Yeah.
It was frowned upon. It was not discussed. And so when you are raised, we are all products of our background.
Blacks and Hispanics have there's a lot.
You know what? I'm glad you said that because I didn't want to be to inject that into there.
I'll do it, man.
We have family friends. We have family friends of color. A lot of
gay stuff in the black.
We have family friends of color, and they said the same thing, that's just how they were raised. Yeah. So what you hope more than anything, society-wise, is that we can change and we can turn and we can open eyes. And Tim Hardaway did that from where he was when he made his comments on his radio show initially to where he is today. I wish everyone could be like that. I wish all of us, whether it's a vice, whether it's a prejudice, we could work toward changing that. Because that's all you want. And you evolve as a society. You don't have a senator who goes, that's not something I care about. That's a stupid discussion. I'm not voting for that. Those are the people who scare me a little bit more than the basketball player who says, I've become enlightened and truly has. And again, by your actions and not your words, by attending parades, by going to groups, by offering support, by putting your support behind legislation in the state of Florida, by real tangible actions instead of just by words. So I just hope that that doesn't become the focus for Tim in today's press conference at Mohegan Sun in Connecticut, tomorrow's inductions in Springfield, the Hall of Fame at Symphony Hall there, and that Tim just sort of gets to be brought in because he is an infectious personality.
Right.
He is so agreeable.
I've been around him for hours at a time,
Yes.
and I'm talking all kinds of stuff, not just basketball. I'm telling you, he's not really he screwed up. I mean, he screwed up big time.
And you know what? And he's spoken to anyone and everyone about it. You've seen all these articles. I wrote about him twice this week at the Sun Sentinel and sunsentinel.com. We've seen national articles. Mark Spears at ESPN wrote about his crossover. There's a story on ESPN about the big three. Tim's been open. It's like, a lot of guys, they're too big for this. You can't get interviews. When the Heat's big stars went in, we'd ask PR, can we get them? No, they're too busy. Tim has been everywhere. Tim calls you back. Tim texts you back. He is very open about everything. And again, Big O, and this is a subject as we have a little more downtime before we get into the season that I will continue to harp on, and that is this. There was an era of the Miami Heat before Pat Riley and before the Big Three and before Dwayne and before Shaq. Dwayne Wade arrived in 2003, 15 years into this history. Please don't forget Ronnie Cycli, Glenn Rice, Steve Smith, some great players who were here before along the way. They deserve credit. Say what you want about Kevin Lockery, but the man had a gazillion wins in 2 different basketball leagues. He was a coach who was respected at his time. Ron Rothstein, for putting up with the misery of what he did and continuing his basketball career, he deserves credit. So please, this is a franchise that for 15 years before Dwayne Wade arrived was still growing and still had some great people. Let's not forget that. Let's honor those people as well.
Hell yeah. No, there's definitely a nice, rich history. That's why I say, maybe we should build a Heat Hall of Fame there, bro.
I'm all there. Or at least a bobblehead hall with all of them in the entrance like the Marlins have.
Yeah, something right there on the water, a nice glass building. That actually would look really, really cool there on the side. So go ahead, Mickey. Let's go. Let's go build a Heat Hall of Fame. All right, what else are you working on in the Sun Sentinel this weekend? So
a couple of things. We'll have coverage of Tim Hardaway's speech. The ceremony starts at 7 o'clock. There were like 15 people going in, so it's going to be a long ceremony. Honestly, the timing is terrible. ESPN didn't pick it up this year because of college football, so it's going to be on NBA TV. Certainly worth checking out, Tim. If you can't and you're watching your Gators or something else, I'll have the background for you. My Ask Ira today at sunsentinel.com. I understand the Heat not wanting to be hard capped. The Heat not wanting to be taxed, and Big O has spoken about this. When it just comes down to money, are they going to be sort of, penny foolish in not adding that 15th player? We will see. There's a difference between not being hard capped. Then you lose flexibility. When it comes to the luxury tax, that gets you down the road in the repeater tax. But with Kyle Lowry, 36, with Jimmy Butler, 33, should they be spending a little more right now? So you can see that.
Yes.
All right. Yes. Well, you know what? Read the damn thing and issue a comment there, just like I read your damn chat board every week on a redrecovered.com Inside the Paint Show, Wednesdays at 9. Get on my damn chat board there, Big O.
Mickey, spend, baby. You don't have Sherman's a payroll. Let's go. You got a lot more than Sherman there with the Marlins. Let's go, buddy. Spend some cash. All right, Ira. Thank you. As always, appreciate you.
I'll catch you next week for 2 Acura Pembroke Pines reports and Wednesday for a redrecovered.com Inside the Paint Show. Thanks, Big O.
Thank you, Ira. Follow him on Twitter at Ira Heatbeat and subscribe to the Sun Sentinel like I and many others do.